This is Community Connections airing on OROMIA11. I am your host, as always, Anna Orr, and today's guest is Amane Badhasso. She is running for the 4th District congressional seat. We want to talk to her about the primary elections, what to expect concerning the 4th District going forward, and some other useful information heading into the November election. This is going to be an episode you won't want to miss. Amane, welcome to another episode of Community Connections. I'm excited to have you back.
Thank you so much, Anna. I'm excited to be back.
Can you talk to me a bit about why the primary is important?
Yeah, there are a couple reasons why the primary is important. First, it is so critical to get folks to participate in our democracy, especially after everything that we've been through, right? Our democracy is under threat, and the best people to make sure that we're able to preserve it, strengthen it, are the voters across the state of Minnesota and across the country. In my district in particular, in District 4, we're a fairly Democratic district. So whoever ends up being the Democratic nominee on August 9th ends up going to Washington. And so the stakes couldn't be higher. And so we're really making sure that we do everything to get folks to turn out. It is such a critical and important year, as is with every year, but particularly this year, to elect somebody that will fight on behalf of working class families. And so I'm urging everybody to turn out and to vote on August 9th, and certainly vote earlier and vote by mail as well.
Now, you've talked a little bit about why the primary is important. How are you faring in the primary, before the primaries, in August?
Yeah, so we're doing well. We're knocking doors. We're talking to as many voters as possible. You know, this isn't new for me. I'm an organizer, have been majority of my life. I have heard from the voters of District 4 and across the state of Minnesota about things that are important to them, especially this year. And so I feel really good. I feel motivated. Our team's motivated. And certainly I think folks across District 4 are motivated to turn out and vote for a progressive champion that will fight on their behalf.
Now, do you feel like you've been able to communicate your message effectively? I know that there's always been, conflicting statements from the opposition, but do you feel like that you're able to target the 4th congressional district with your message so that they're able to vote clearly on the 9th about what's important to them and their neighbors?
Absolutely. So I am working class myself. Some of the issues that I have been hearing about on the campaign trail are issues that are so important to me. Folks want access to a livable wage. They want Medicare for all. They want to be able to not spend all of their money on access to health care. They want to make sure that their kids can go to school and feel safe. They want to make sure that we have a thriving community here in District 4 where there's economic development and folks are able to have access to the American dream. So all of these things, right, the message that we've been able to share with folks are the messages I've been hearing my whole life, or messages that are so important to me as well. And so I think we have done our part, especially with the resources we have, to make sure that there's a distinction in this race. What we have is a people-powered politics versus corporate-powered politics, right? We are running a grassroots campaign that is centering and prioritizing working class families, whereas our opposition is running a campaign where they're, doing everything they can to maintain the status quo. And I think folks across District 4, and certainly the community that has raised me, they're able to see the distinction. And so I think to some extent, we have done everything we can to get our message across. But to your point of that question, my opponent is funded by corporate interests. And so she certainly has more money on hand to be able to share her message across District 4 and say that she's delivering, when in fact she has failed to deliver for working class families and has in return really only delivered for the corporations that have funded her campaign. And so we're hoping that folks are following us. They're staying updated on important issues that we're fighting for here on the campaign trail. But certainly I think our message is clear to everybody that we are the candidacy that will fight for working class families.
I will say that I was at a festival, the Asafana Festival, this past week, and there was a lot of young people, I would say between the ages of 18 and 30 something, that seemed to be really excited about you and about the work that you've been doing in the community so far. So I think there's going to be an uptick in voters turnout when the primary takes place.
Absolutely. And what makes an organizer happier than seeing everybody actually believe in our politics, right? For a very long time, folks have felt like politicians are out of touch with them, that they come only during election cycles to share a message that they get written up by folks that they pay monthly salary to. Whereas for us, we've been in this district, we've heard from the voters across this district, and certainly as an organizer, it's so critical to me that we have young people turning out, folks who never turned out to turn out. I was having a conversation with somebody that was registering to vote for the first time, even though they've been eligible to vote for the past 17 years. And so it shows that when a politics actually inspires people, everybody turns out and participates. So I'm very excited and very honored to be in this race for them.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the public's reaction, seeing as you've been door knocking and had people from your campaign at festivals and things like that? Can you speak to what the public's reception has been so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a fairly democratic district, as I mentioned, and when you talk to folks who are ready to move on from the status quo, they're very excited, very happy. They've been waiting for this alternative for a very long time. This is the first time that the sitting congresswoman of 22 years has had a serious race where she's forced to actually have conversations about the issues despite dodging it and going about just resulting to making statements as opposed to being on the ground like we are. And I think there's the other side as well. Folks who are comfortable with the status quo do not necessarily feel the burden that a lot of our working class families are feeling. And so for them, it's, they're okay with the status quo. But I've made this very, very clear from the beginning that we are running to bring about transformative change. We're not going to Washington to maintain the status quo or to continue to serve the corporate donors that have been funding a lot of candidates in Washington. I'm going there to certainly shake things up and really fight on behalf of families that have been disregarded for a very long time. And so you see both sides, but I think we're hearing a lot more from those who are ready for change, which makes me very optimistic.
We've talked a bit about how Betty McCullough has held her seat for such a long time. And I feel like there are things that are indicative that Minnesotans are ready for change. But what is something specific that you've heard addressed in the public that says, I think I'm onto something, or that this is a vein in which I should be pointing my resources and my support?
Absolutely. So we, as Democrats hold the majority right now, right? And we, oftentimes when I talk to voters across this district, they're talking about the fact that they really feel as though members within our own party could be fighting harder on their behalf. Particularly for us in District 4, we have seen the Congresswoman continue to overspend. By that, I mean she is the CFO of the military industrial complex. All the requests coming in from the military, from the Pentagon, right? She is providing additional, not just how much they're asking, additional billions and billions of dollars that mostly go to defense contractors, mind you, not to protect our national security, not to protect folks across our nation, around the world, but really to serve the donors that fund her. And this is evident if you look at the FEC reports. Everything that we talk about in this campaign, folks are able to have access to. And I'll tell you, we're fed up. We want more investments in education. We want more investments in small businesses. We want to see a city that's thriving. We want to see a district that's thriving. And when those additional billions of dollars go to defense contractors, what do we get, right? And so folks are really, really not happy with the status quo, really prioritizing who they've been prioritizing for decades. And the main reason why our message resonates with them is because we are the only candidacy that's not beholden to special interest. I have not and will never take a dime of corporate PAC money or money from Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, because I understand that Washington is about priorities, right? We need to make sure that for the first time in District 4's history in the past 22 years, that we're putting the voters of District 4 and the families of District 4 first. And we can only do that if we are bold enough to welcome a new generation of leaders that are willing to fight for us and not the corporate interests that continue to serve and protect my opponent.
I think that's very important. Now, you spoke about voter turnout in the 5th District as well as in the 4th. 2nd and 3rd have been a little bit lower than the 4th has experienced. How has your campaign navigated around that?
Yeah, Anna, that's an excellent question. So District 4, despite being a progressive and democratic district, has had one of the lower turnouts than most progressive districts, right? Including District 5, where, it's such a great example of what happens when you have a member of Congress willing to invest in turnout all year round. What we've had in District 4 is a sitting congresswoman that has ignored organizing, that has not mobilized a broad coalition like we have. District 4 is diverse. It's over 40% folks of color. It has a lot of refugees, former refugees like myself, lots of immigrants, lots of folks who have lived here for generations. And they're not participating. Why? Going back to the politics of optimism. They don't see a candidate that represents their issues best. And what we are trying to do now is to change that culture by participating in the primary, by ensuring that we had one of the largest turnouts for the caucuses and conventions, which was an insider process, right? And so we're doing all of these things to make it clear that when we all participate, that when we have a candidate that really understands the power of grassroots organizing, the power of people-powered politics, we can actually end up having Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, all of those things that are so popular amongst the American public. But we can only do that when we have somebody willing to invest in communities and not the corporate interests that serve them and have been leading Washington politics for a very long time. And I'm very happy and excited to be leading really powerful progressive infrastructure here in District 4 for the first time in the past 22 years.
That's important to note, in the past 22 years, a chance to bring not only change, but also, I feel like, some fresh energy and some fresh ideas and some focus to the 4th District. I think that's important for the constituents you're going to potentially represent. Now, many know that on August 9th is the primary elections, but so many don't know how important the primary elections are. I just want to provide a little bit of insight to help you navigate the time on August 9th. A primary election determines which candidates will be on the ballot in November general election. For information specific to the presidential nomination primary, please see the presidential primary webpage. If you are interested in figuring out where you can vote, if your polling place has moved, who's listed on your ballot, all that information, you can go to the minnesotavotes.org website and you can review and update any information necessary so that you're able to register to vote. All votes must be postmarked ahead of the primary date, 8/8, and all in-person absentee ballots have to be dropped off at your local polling place before 3 p.m. on August 9th. Please don't forget the primary election is Tuesday, August 9th. How people that are unable to vote can support you. I know that we often talk in our community that it takes all kinds and that there's something for everyone. Martin Luther King talked about people that folded programs, people that provided meals for marchers, people that went and bailed people out of jail during the civil rights movement. Can you let us know, for the viewership that are interested in supporting but are unable to vote, how they can plug in?
Absolutely. So as an organizer, I'm going to have to say joining us for door knocks, bringing food to the campaign office. We are a savvy grassroots campaign, and so we certainly don't have all the resources to be able to provide it for everybody to show up and really, let us know why they're inspired for the first time in a very long time. All of these things, the showing up part, right? The community supporting community part is part of what makes our campaign really, really powerful. In that, we're up against a lot of power, Anna. We're up against a member of the establishment that is fully funded by some powerful people who have been running Washington for a very long time. Certainly, we have a lot of challenges, but we continue to keep going and be inspired and have come as far as we did because folks show up, they come here, they knock doors with us, they talk to voters over the phone, they bring us food, they bring us coffee. As you know, coffee is so important to my culture, so whenever I get the chance to drink it along with my volunteers and staff, it's always amazing. And the second is going back to the money, right? We know that one of the main reasons why people powered politics is really, something that we believe in is because we know that money, especially a lot of dark money, a lot of corporate PAC money, they've been dictating legislative priorities in Washington for a very long time. And so we need to be able to fund ourselves. We need to be able to have enough resources to get our message across to the voters, to let them know that we are, the alternative that will serve them and not the special interests. And so to do that, I need folks to donate. Anybody who is a green card holder, a permanent resident, and citizen across the states can fund our campaign, and it's a federal seat, and so the priorities of Minnesota are the priorities of any other state across this country. We're talking about the need for Medicare for all, the need to make sure that we're able to save our planet, the need to make sure that we take on mass incarceration across our country, the need to make sure that America is actually fair and just, not just for a select few, but for everybody. And to do that, it's going to require all of us. And so I hope folks go to AmaneForCongress.com, our website, chip in what they have, sign up, get important updates from our campaign. We are just 13 days away, so folks should look us up immediately and try to help us out as much as they possibly can.
I think that's wonderful. My last question for you, once the election is over, what is next for Amane Badhasso?
That's an excellent question. So we are going to win on August 9th, and we're going to send a really powerful message to a lot of powerful folks across this country that when people-powered politics is in it to win it, we can take on any and all special interests. And so I look forward to continuously making sure that we are turning out, that we are mobilizing folks across District 4, getting ready to deliver on important legislative priorities of this district if we do win, and ensuring that we are in this for a very long time. The fight to make sure that we build a just and fair America is going to require a lifetime commitment. And so regardless of what happens on August 9th, I am committed to that endeavor, and I will continue to fight on behalf of working class families. And of course, a little break doesn't hurt as well, regardless of how this turns out.
I'm happy to hear you're talking about a little break. I asked about that last time you were with us, so I'm excited to hear that is on the focal point to get to next, right after we take care of the primary election.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me today. It is always a pleasure to speak with you, but also to have you share up-to-date information in real time so that we're able to not only stay civically engaged, but so that we're aware of what's going on across our communities and within our neighborhoods.
Thanks so much, Anna. It's an honor.
Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to finding out what the results are going to be after August 9th.
Me too. I'm excited. Thanks so much.
That is all the time that we have today. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Community Connections, airing right here on OROMIA11. I am grateful to Amane Badhasso and her wonderful campaign team for their flexibility today. Please pay attention if you are in the 4th District for a door knock from her and or someone from her campaign, and stay up to date on information concerning you and your neighborhood. Thank you for joining me.